We're going to start talking about Prince first. So shout out to all the Prince podcast on Prince people out there, and whatever platform you're hearing this right now. It's been a minute since we've talked about some Prince like on the air and stuff, but I felt like this last month or so, I just been getting deeper into some Prince, just musically. Just really listening to stuff. Finally finished Dwayne's book, and we'll definitely have to do an interview. A review of the book. So have that fresh on my mind, and just been really listening to the music, like I said. And of course, we got a new album that's going to be dropping next week or a couple weeks.
Days.
Yeah. A couple of weeks coming. Welcome to America. And with that album, obviously comes some more promo push from the estate, which I'm loving. There's some good little nuggets out there. There was a good interview in Rolling Stone with, sort of getting oral stories from the people involved in actually making the album, from some of the musicians. A couple of musicians I wasn't even familiar with. Personally, I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to read that article.
I read it, yeah.
But there was some cool little tidbits in there, actually, at least to me, about the process of them recording and working with Prince. One of the things I come away from reading that was and I think somebody said that, I don't know if it was Winfield said something, I'm paraphrasing, that, they was walking on eggshells, like, you don't want to ask too many questions. You just kind of like ask you to do something, you do it. And then it was the sort of the conversation about, being, I guess, available to Prince when he needed you, and what saying no meant. I thought that was very interesting. But that was cool. But there is another article that has come out. Wall Street Journal put out a piece on Prince, and it was titled, pull it up here, How Prince Will Last Forever. And it starts out talking about, of course, Welcome to the America album that's coming out. And it also talks about the exhibition that they have at the museum now of his shoes.
300 pair.
300 pair. I call them high heel boots. But Prince, obviously, you already know, each pair was unique and its own thing unto itself. That was probably, and we're going to go all over the place, but Prince was not necessarily when we think of flashy artists, they get money and they balling out and they get the big cars and all the girls. Prince, to me, he balled out with his fashion. That's with one thing that I felt like he was on some I'm rich nigga type shit was his clothes, and particularly the shoes. Like, that's some pimp thing. Like, no, every shoe is going to be on some next shit. You can't just go to the store and buy it. Each shoe matches the outfit. He's old school. So of course, coordinate is a big thing throughout his career. Like, all his shit be matching and everything. And so to me, he balled out on his shoes. He was really flexing with that. And it's interesting and cool to see them sort of spotlight that. That's not the music. It is, he's on his, so you wouldn't have me working there and you wouldn't title it, but he was on his rich nigga shit. Like, yeah, let me floss. He was flossing with that. And that's cool to see that. So they talked about those things leading up, but then to me, the article takes a turn that I would imagine the Prince estate probably is not what they want to have for promo, but it starts to talk about, the behind the scenes drama that's going on with Prince's estate and the various parties that are jockeying for position and power and ownership of the Prince estate. So they interview some people from this company called Primary Wave, which if you've been following anything about the Prince estate, that is this huge company that is in the business of buying up catalogs from classic, iconic artists and things. And, they're acquiring all these assets so that they can own them and monetize them for various situations. And they got their eyes on the Prince estate. And in the article, it talks about how Primary Wave is sort of positioning itself to be a shareholder, a stakeholder, a seat at the table of the Prince estate. So it's not just, is it Comerica, the bank?
Comerica, yes.
Comerica, who controls and who controls the Prince estate. Of course, there are the heirs. But what's been going on is that some of the heirs have been selling their interest or percentages of their interest of ownership to Primary Wave. And Primary Wave is buying these up so that they can have a seat at the table to the Prince estate. And I would imagine they would want to own it, right? At least in my play, it seems like, okay, they want to own this. How can they own it? Well, let's go to the heirs and let's see if we can get them to sell their interest to us, so that we basically allows us to get up there and have just as much say as an heir would and own that. And the article starts to talk about that. And I actually think that type of stuff is very interesting. Now, before I go on, I did want to read a few pieces from this, and I wanted to get the fellas to give their thoughts on this. And let me see. Okay, so here's a piece. This Comerica, the financial services company, was appointed as the personal representative of the Prince estate on February the 1st, 2017, taking over from the primary fiduciary Premier Bank.
Stop. Fiduciary.
Fiduciary. Thank you. Beamer Bank. All official releases and exhibitions initiated since then have been produced by Comerica, which has retained Carter, Michael Howe, Trevor Guy, I believe his name, and others as independent contractors. Its goal is to increase the value of the estate. Now, here's something interesting. In a statement, a representative said, "As a personal representative of the Prince estate, Comerica represents the best interests of the estate as a whole and not its individual heirs." It's referring to Prince's 5 living siblings who are his heirs. Recently, though, another major player has been increasing its stake in the estate, and that's Primary Wave Music. And it is said in this article, it says, Primary Wave has purchased interest in Prince's estate from Prince's sister, Tyka Nelson, and his half-brother, Alfred Jackson. It says Prince left no will. With settlement of the estate stuck in legal gridlock, Nelson and Jackson sold part of their future inheritance. Another interesting thing here, and they're referencing the Minnesota Star Tribune. They reported that Primary Wave controls a substantial minority share of the Prince estate, and that it has made unsuccessful overtures to 3 other heirs. In court filings in January 2020, the 3 heirs expressed concern about Primary Wave's efforts to insert itself in the estate. They're referencing, I believe it is a petition or some sort of legal document that Sharon Nelson, I think I have it here. Yeah, Sharon L. Nelson, Nori P. Nelson, and John R. Nelson. They've joined together. I think they reference themselves as SNJ or something like that. Yeah, SNJ. They went to the courts earlier this year when saying that the Prince estate had not been kicking them down any money for their services helping the estate and whatever, decision making or whatever they do in capacity that they operate. But they made a point to say everybody else, from the consultants and the independent contractors, lawyers, whoever, are getting paid but us. So they have went to the court about this, and they also, in this legal document, talk about Primary Wave has been trying to get at us they want to give us loans, to get our interest. So they give us money and then we give up, I guess, some of our rights as heirs to Primary Wave. And they're saying we're not trying to do those deals. They bring up that they have a side eye sort of look at the deal that Alfred did with Primary Wave. Salute to Alfred, that gentleman. He did pass away right after he apparently signed or did the deal with Primary Wave. And they had a little side eye about that. So there are some other things going on there. What is not in this Wall Street Journal article, and I saw this court document started floating online, it would look as if Omar Baker, one of the other heirs, has sold his or some of his interests into the estate over to Primary Wave as well. And I think I posted that on social media earlier in the week. I say all this to say it goes into talking about sort of Comerica and Primary Wave, and it sounds like there might be a little battle that may be coming down the pike of, who is in control of this situation. And they talk about later that, Primary Wave is already thinking of ways that products and things that they can come up with and ideas. And I think they even made a point to say, we wouldn't do something like the holographic tour that they're doing for Whitney Houston. Primary Wave also has controlling interest, I believe, in the Whitney Houston estate. They do deals with them. And I remember one of the controversial things that came out a few years ago was that they were going to do a holographic tour of Whitney Houston, which I think they've been doing.
I'm sorry. Who are the heirs of the Whitney Houston estate? Because I thought everything went to Bobby Christina, and my assumption was when she died, since she had no heirs, that it went to Bobby.
I don't think so. I think Bobby has the Bobby estate, but I don't know. I have no idea to answer that question. All I do know is that Primary Wave is a major player in the Whitney Houston estate, among others. Kurt Cobain, Bob Marley, Ray Charles. It says they recently acquired Smokey Robinson, Stevie Nicks. This is a big company.
Don't get it twisted. These companies are spending millions.
Yes.
To get these catalogs. It's these guys, and it's another company called, I'm going to butcher the name, Hypnosis. These cats are spending long money to acquire all these intellectual properties.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they're funded by, what it says here, there are several firms, including following in Primary Wave's footsteps. Yeah, Hypnosis, Song Fund, funded by the Canadian-born music business executive Merrick Mercedes or something. They said they spent $1.7 billion buying the rights to more than $50,000 songs. So it's a big business.
This is the wave, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're seeing with the Prince thing is, he's not the only catalog type of thing that this is happening to. But my thing is, and my question put out here is that it's very interesting though to me, because I can already see in a couple of years, they probably will own the Prince estate. It's either going to be a fight between this Comerica Bank, who's been appointed by the courts, or it's going to be some big power players like a Primary Wave that want this and are willing to spend what it takes to get it. And, to me, it's just these two huge corporations fighting over the control of Prince Roger Nelson's work. And they want it because it's a cash cow. They feel like they can make money on it. And I feel bad for the heirs because they're being thrust into this situation, and there are these huge companies that got big bank that are willing to play the long game to get what they want, and they got the resources and the money to do it. Because everybody got a price at a certain point. We don't know what kind of lifestyle people are living. The heirs in one of their court things talk about, they're living off their own pensions and different things to try and survive. And they're getting all of these humongous lawyer bills trying to keep up with all of this big business. And they're not going to be able to keep up. They're going to fall in debt about it. And what's going to happen is these big companies say, listen, I know you hurting. I know you hurting. Listen, we can cut you this check right now. Let me get that. Let me be I'll take that from you. You don't even, what did Prince say on the chairman? Why don't you handle it such a leader draws to me? They like, listen, just going here's a little $100,000, $300,000. You ain't never had that kind of bread. That's chump change to them. But here, you can take this and we got this. Don't worry about it. Now, if they can spend that little bit of money to get that, because they know they can get this thing. This thing they sitting on millions. Maybe billions in the long term. I've said enough. I want to get Big Sexy really to get in on his opinion and thoughts on this type of stuff, man. What's your take on all this?
Okay. This is going to be a bit of a long take, so I apologize now. There's a lot to unpack here. First of all, just before I start doing my mathematical calculations, there were 6 heirs initially, or 5?
I'm not sure the exact number.
Okay, for simplicity, we'll say there are 5. Okay? So we got 5 heirs who each have 20% of the Prince estate. Okay, fine. Now, put that aside to the left here for a moment. Now, this really started, you could say this really started with Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. Because Paul McCartney was buying up them old songs way back when, told Michael about it. We all know how Michael got his thing. And that's kind of what really lit that whole fire into people's ears, or under people's eyes. Now, last year when we had the pandemic and no one is touring, a lot of these older, I'll call them legacy groups, said, you know what, I'm out. Bob Dylan sold his catalog for $300 million because, let's face it, Bob is not a young man. He's like, look, I'm going to cash out. Here's $300. I'm out. Stevie Nicks recently sold a piece of hers. I've learned that the Rick James estate has sold their property, IP, to one of these firms. Journey has sold theirs. A lot of people are doing this. As to what these companies are going to do with them, I don't know. Now, going back to Prince, since Prince, has left us, his intellectual property, the output, and we're just looking at output here, is a highly desirable tool. We all know this. Now, go back to the heirs. I don't know what their individual circumstances are. It is not my business. But they have 1/5 of that estate. Now, Comerica has been brought in to go ahead and run things, and that's fine. When you are named trustee of any type of property or estate, as trustee, your job is to make it profitable. So the heirs shouldn't really be reaching in their pocket for anything. These guys have the opportunity and the skill to make it profitable. And initially there were some bumps, but it's been started to become profitable. Now, I don't know the ages of these heirs, and a lot of them are the ones who sold, may have said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to wait for this to get traction and I'll get my money down the line, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to pull a Bob Dylan. I'm out now. Now, assuming they did that, it is on them to have done their diligence and find out exactly what it's worth, because I'm not comparing legacies by any stretch of the imagination. But if Bob Dylan's getting 300, and I think Stevie got 180 or so for a substantial piece of her catalog, and Prince owned all of that stuff, the Time stuff, the Sheila E. stuff, there's got to be in those type of numbers.
Yeah, so and all the stuff that hasn't even came out yet.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So if Primary Wave comes to me as a 1/5 shareholder with $100,000, get the fuck out of my house. No, hell no. No. Well, we're going to do, you can't do anything to me. It is mine. It is mine. So whatever you want to do, you cannot do without me. And by the way, fuck you. Now, conversely, if Primary Wave says, look, it's worth about, I'll just, again, using simple numbers, it's worth $300 million. Okay, fine. That'll work. Now, if you want to break me off a little something for that, break me off like 60 or 70, cool. You guys do what you do. But you're not going to lowball me and fuck me out of this. Now, as it stands now, I believe Primary Wave owns 40% or something to the extent of they are the largest single, shareholder, but they don't own a majority stake. So if they don't own a majority stake, they can't really do a lot of things. The people who have not sold out have to be smarter than this, And again, at the end of the day, though, it's business. It is an asset for them now. They were left an asset by their relative. What are you going to do with it? Well, if you're going to sell it, that's on you. But if you're going to sell it, get value for it, because it's easy to go to Primary Wave, and if they're bullshitting, well, we'll give you $100,000. Is that right? Let me call up Hypnosis. Let me call up Jay-Z and have his people get this too, man. We can make some money happen around here. They have an opportunity here to create generational wealth. The question is, how are they going to play it? Or they could go another way, because back in the late 90s, when baseball was going nuts with the home run records, people were buying up these home run balls. Todd McFarlane, creator and artist of Spawn, bought the the Mark McGwire 70th home run ball. It was worth $3 million at the time. And people were saying, well, he's going to give it to the Hall of Fame. I'm like, don't give it to anybody. If you want to display it, license it to them. They will pay you a fee. They'll display it. You retain ownership. So if I'm an estate holder, I'm like, okay, Primary Wave, we can do some work. I will license you, the authority to use my shares for a fee, but they belong to me. Now, what's up with that? So there are a lot of ways to go here. It's really, if they're trying to just sell out and cash out now, they're being really short-sighted, because there are incredibly deep pockets here, and the value of the asset that they own is huge. They got to think long picture. They got to think, big picture. They got to think long-term gains. The licensing possibilities are endless. I'm thinking that a lot of these companies are making these moves because with all the media outlets now, they all need content, and they all want to use that music. And before he died, Prince wasn't giving up any of that. And so if they can get these music and films, they can get paid. The best example I have of recent times, the Beatles got, I want to say like $750,000 for use of one of their lesser known songs in an episode of Mad Men. Shit. The money's there. So the heirs have got to be smarter about this. Now, I'm not saying they're not, because I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But if this is about just simple assets, as in mergers and acquisitions and things of that nature, you've got to be smart. You've got to have your due diligence, and you got to have your team in place.
Yeah, let me just add to that. To me, what it looks like what's going on is that the heirs want to be considered in what's going on. The heirs want to be compensated for what's going on. And it seems as if, because there've been multiple sort of filings in courts and interviews, that seems to be some kind of thing in the way between the heirs and the bank. And the bank is the one that has been granted control by the courts to administer what's going on with the estate. And it seems as if, for whatever reason, the bank doesn't necessarily want to deal with the heirs, and in terms of allowing them to really have a say of what types of things are being done and obviously being paid. The
Well,
bank has come out in this interview and said, we are here for the estate, not the individual heirs. Right?
and they're right. Because when you're trustee
Sure.
of a property, you have a fiduciary duty to make it profitable. Now, when you're dealing with a group of people, I mean, we all know this. It's hard to have a group of people that agree on anything.
Right.
You know, and no one in that group is qualified to run that type of enterprise. Sorry. Just because you own it doesn't mean you know what you're doing.
Right. Well, that's why I wanted to get on that point. So a person's qualification versus it's theirs. I think this is the slippery slope that they have to be careful about. And you brought up the Beatles and things earlier. I would be very curious, and maybe there's something like this that has happened before. I think Britney Spears may fall into this.
Ugh.
And you see the outpouring from the fan base and just regular people in terms of this Britney Spears thing. I have never seen anybody, and I don't even follow it, but just from the reports alone on the surface level, seems as if the contention is we support Britney. She needs to be in control of her situation, right? Mm-hmm. Am I wrong? Is that what it seems like? Even the media seems to be pushing that narrative.
You're right.
And it sounds as if the courts have said, for whatever reason, she's not competent, or to go back what you said, she knows how to operate an organization on that level, even though it's hers. So they appointed somebody else to be in control of it, right?
But part of the Britney Spears thing, and I'm not, deeply familiar with that, but I believe a lot of that was when the agreements that her dad did when she was young and set up these, conservatorships and all that.
Sure.
Then she had a little period of running around, shaving her head and stuff like that. I'm sure a court at some point said, you know what, she's tripping. So we're going to keep dad in play here.
Sure.
And then a lot of parents, I was watching something the other day. There's this one child actor from the early 20s, like that predates the Little Rascals. He was making, at that time, $20,000 a week. Mm-hmm. And his parents fucked it away. Gary Coleman. So many parents have been in that position of that fiduciary, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to make it grow. I'm going to spend it. And that's what we have with Britney Spears. So when you're placed in that position, you've got restrictions on you. Now, going back to Prince, if the heirs were really unified and they all sat down and said, look, fuck all this arguing. Why don't we decide on one person who's going to run it? We put them in it and step back, or we go to Comerica as a unified front and say, look, you guys are trustees? Yeah, cool. Do what you do. When it's profitable, we get our taste. Cool. And keep it moving. But it seems like when you have, such disparate personalities, everybody can't be in charge. It doesn't work that way. And so now you got one saying, well, I'm going to sell and all this, and
which is their right.
Which is their right.
To go back to the Britney and the Beatles comparison, though. Again, the narrative is pushed, even with all the stuff you just said, the narrative is, damn that, we support Britney. That's what the people are pushing for, right? So she's able to push back and get the courts to want to open up the case again and allow this thing to continue so that she can get right. She's an adult now, so whatever happened before, she's a grown-ass woman, mother of her own. She's fighting to get her control over her stuff. Even though the courts have sided with somebody else, public opinion is on her side now, and she's going. My thing is to say, I'm curious. It seems as if the public opinion is not necessarily on the side of the heirs for whatever reasons, even though they are the heirs. I don't know if it matters if they are knowledgeable about running a music industry type business as opposed to that bank is. But the bank, to me, and I could be wrong, is to make it profitable so that it can be handed back to the heirs? Aren't they brought in to handle it for me? But it seems as if you're going by what the heirs have been saying in the courts and the interviews, is that we're powerless.
No,
they don't want nothing to. They're not really trying to hear us. We won't fight to get in the meetings. They're definitely not going to pay us, and we're going broke trying to get lawyers to be able to do some of the things that we suggested, like to get an accounting and all, because of course you can't just walk into there and say, okay, I wanted it. No, you're going to have to go to your lawyer, and they got to go to our lawyer. Now, of course, the bank probably got unlimited resources to pay for lawyers. Probably got them on call 24 hours a day. They're doing their job every day. The heirs, as they've said, are living off of their pensions and whatever savings they got. And I don't know if they still work. Again, most of them are 60, 70 plus. These are senior citizens. So they may not be pulling in the kind of money that they're going to be able to afford lawyers on the level that can go against the lawyers of these big corporations. So they are being bleeded dry just trying to keep up, which is why they're saying, hey, we're going broke because we got all these levy fees from lawyers. I believe that's what Tyka Nelson came out. She was drowning in that situation trying to pay these lawyers, and she wanted to sue to get the money to that. And we see. So to me, it is as if the heirs are pretty much being sidelined because they can't afford to keep up. There's no way in hell they're going to be able to afford lawyers to battle this type of situation. And the other side knows that. And we can drag this thing out. You ain't going to be able to keep up with us. And then you got these other players on the side that see this situation. Oh, like, well, shit. We could just go in there and offer them money and buy them out, and we can take control. But the thing I'm trying to bring up is to say, unfortunately for the heirs, they could have all the great intentions in the world. But to me, this has now become about big business.
Oh, yeah.
They want to buy this. And they just I don't think they have the resources to compete with that. All they can do really is to be a go along, get along. Because you're not going to be able to dictate nothing. They're going to tell you to your face, we don't have to listen to you. They're going to tell you to your face, we ain't paying you shit.
No, can't do that.
So, well, I'm just saying, they letting you know you're not going to get paid right now until we get all the accounting done and we got the tax. You can put all these legitimate reasons in front of it, but they just letting you know you're not getting no bread.
Immediately, no, you're not.
So if I can
go ahead, Ann.
So if I can say this in ratchet terms, essentially what's going on is big bank taking little bank.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have a treasure trove right there. Mm-hmm. You don't have the resources to manage it properly. You're not clicked in with the court systems and the bank, so they're not going to side with you. And once that is established, we don't have to deal with you. What can you do about it? You can only run to the courts or run to the media, but we can play the long game.
Again.
And I'm of two minds. Like, part of me is looking at, this is your family's legacy. Prince was your family. I know people are going to say, whatever, stepbrothers, or he didn't really have these great relationships with some of these other heirs. Oh, Tyka is the only one he really effed with. First off, y'all don't know that. It's what you think, or what you didn't heard from somebody else who didn't heard something from somebody else. Secondly, this isn't what their business was. This isn't what they do. I don't know. They were out there living their lives, and unfortunately, Prince passed away, and we got to be real. We got to have real talk. He didn't set up for the inevitable.
He didn't handle his business.
Exactly.
Let's keep it.
He didn't handle it. Yeah.
Okay.
For a guy who really pushed for ownership and all of that, black business and all that, unfortunately, he didn't handle his business the way he should have. And now his family has to deal with the world and the way things happen. Now, to go back to the Beatles, why I brought that up, I guarantee you, if something happened to Paul McCartney or whatever, and God bless, nothing does, but if you would not see his family, if Yoko and Paul's son, John Lennon's son, if they had somebody else, it was some big corporation had somehow got in charge of their shit, and they finally started speaking up like, yo, we trying to get control of my daddy's, da-da-da. The whole narrative would be, man, give them people back their stuff. They wouldn't be asking, well, does Yoko and them know how to run the business? Or I don't know if he really talked to his cousin, second cousin at the court. They would be like, get them family back their stuff. It wouldn't even be no conversation in the media. It would be a full-on support. So it's a little funny to me. That's what I'm saying, man. It's a little funny.
And then the other part is, I'm sorry, let me just get to the last part.
And the other part is shit to do with Paul McCartney.
Right.
Nothing.
And the other part is that as much as I want to sit back from my perspective, being in California, working my job, saying, "Oh no, y'all fools! Y'all shouldn't. That you know how much money y'all sitting on? Y'all need to come together and hold on to this. Do it for Prince. Do it for your heirs. Do it for the family." The thing is, I'm not in a situation. I don't know what the situation is. Based on what they're telling us, they ain't getting everybody getting, like you mentioned before, everybody got their hand out getting their money, but the people who actually own it. So I can sit back and say, damn, come on, bruh, don't do that. That ain't what Prince wanted. However, whatever Prince wanted, it died with him. And he didn't set that up. And secondly, what Prince wanted matters not right now when they're the ones living with the repercussions of his inactions, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
okay. And you know what? Right. I agree with you. And my thing is to keep it a buck, though. I want the people who control Prince's things, then say that. Don't say, I'm doing it to uphold the legacy. No. Say exactly what you're doing. That motherfucker didn't take care of his business. He wouldn't fuck with us. He wouldn't have fucked with us. Let's keep it above. He didn't do the things that just to make money. He did the things to make a point. He lost money because he was like, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to own it. And if that means I'm not going to be in the mainstream system, so be it. I'll be on my independent, but I'm going to own it. That was his legacy. But obviously, you're not really doing that for that. You're doing it for control and to make that money. And if you say that up front, okay, and then it is what it is. But let's just don't confuse the two where I'm doing it to uphold the legacy. No, you're doing it because this is a cash cow. You're a business and you're trying to do business. Call it for what it is. But what it is not is a black-owned business by a single dude from Minnesota who shunned the business world to do it his way and to prove a point. You're doing it for this. So if they just keep it 100 and say it like that, then I wouldn't have no problem. Then I'd be like, you know what, heirs? That's the game. We can learn from this and you can walk away. But they're trying to spin it as if they're doing it for his best interest. And my opinion, I'm not saying I'm right, but my opinion is that's not his best interest. That's yours. So that's what Prince's thing will be from now on. It'll be the best interest from a bank or this major corporation. It will not be the shit he was talking about on them records.
Thing is also, like Anthony said, when Prince died, not having set things up like MJ did, MJ stuff is airtight. We know who's getting taken care of. We know who ain't getting shit. That's that. Also, though, for Comerica or someone involved to come out and make a statement like that, that's bad business. You can't do that. Also, if as far as public support, believe me, if the estate hadn't put out these releases and these things that they have put out, they would have stormed the castles long ago. Okay, long ago. So I see what they're trying to do. And one more thing, if the heirs decided back when this all went down, you know what, we're not about this. We're going to just dismantle Paisley and be done with it. That would have been a problem too. And if you're going to keep Paisley open, Paisley costs money to run, man. These things cost money to administer. So I see it both ways. Again, I don't know the heirs. I have not spoken to any of them. But, again, these are older people. If they think they're going to say, okay, well, Prince is gone, 6 months from now, we want $20 million. Doesn't work that way. Unless you just start selling it off. No. And again, in our current climate of hypnosis and primary wave of these other companies, They're always going to be out there looming in the background. We know Prince was about his independence and all that, but Prince was about paper too. If they came in with the right numbers, I'm sure they'd work something out. Would he have sold? No. Would he have licensed it? Possibly. So it's all about how you play the cards you have, which is why I'm so good at this.
Yeah, man. So it's an interest. I think it's a topic that is going to continue to build as time continues to roll forward.
One more thing. I think with Prince, and you said my card, I'm going to put Stevie Wonder in there too, as opposed to Britney Spears. When you talk about people who actually created these IPs, yeah, it's different. Britney, no disrespect, you didn't write shit. Okay? So it's not quite the same emotional, investment here. I'm not saying her music isn't valid and all that.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't think it has anything to do with people, how they feel like they love Britney. And whatever it is that Britney's against and they feel it's unfair, they're riding, which they should.
Oh, like my man back in the day, leave Britney alone.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that she ain't put out no records in years, but she's top of mind topic and people are riding for her because they love her. And there ain't no questions asked about like what she did. She's solidified. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's not even the point about if she wrote songs. It's a point of this her life. And she should be in control of her life. And to me, like with Prince, that's Prince's stuff. He's not in control of it. Obviously not here. And neither is his family. And going by the rules that the mainstream has set up in the court system, they're supposed to be in charge, but they're not. Now, again, if it was somebody, I feel like if it was some of these other legendary ones, and it got in the news like that, and it was some other bank or something had control, and you was like, oh, I thought his family was in control of it. Nah, they're not eating. They'd be like, huh? But I just could have sworn he got a new double album special edition came out. Oh yeah, I mean it's selling, but they're not eating off of it. You'd be like, oh wow, okay, that's very interesting. It might make you think, man, should I be buying? Where is the money going for all this stuff? Who's eating? Because we know Prince ain't eating.
I would be curious, just as an observer, and these are things that I'll never see, but I would like to see the numbers here. I would love to see what's being brought in, what costs are, what the liabilities are, and how much the records are selling, and how much the licenses are selling. I would be curious. But again, if I'm one of the heirs and it's not coming into my satisfaction, I'm like, all right, fine, fuck it. I'm in business for myself. Let me take my 20%, call Hypnosis, and be like, what's up? What do you got for me? What do you got for me right now on the table? And go from there. Because they've got the power here. They're not using it properly. They've got the power. Because they own the asset.
Yeah, I agree, but it seems like they don't have, even with that, they don't have the power. They have the power to sell their little asset, but other than that, it seems like they're being locked out. I said it seems like, I don't know, but obviously there's something going on because you got it. Some of the estates are cool with, or some of the heirs are cool with the estate, some are not, and then some are selling their shit.
And again,
so there's something going on.
People see things the way they see them, and that's why it's hard to get people to agree on things like that. Right.
But what you can see is that the bank probably is like, I don't give a fuck one way or the other. We control this, and we control the money coming in and out. So as long as we controlling the finances, y'all can go be over there and argue what you want. Court then gave us the power. We clicked in. Oh well. And on to the next product.
If the heirs were in unison, they could have Comerica bounced out of there in a heartbeat. Easily.
But I don't know about that.
I know about that. Trust me. If all the beneficiaries agree, trustee, goodbye, then get someone else. But they all have to agree.
And the bank probably knows that. It would be like, why would we want them to agree, right?
Anybody who's got counsel should know this. They should know this. If they don't, then their lawyers aren't doing their job. And they need to be checked on that.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, it's a feeding frenzy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and you got these people.
The Don Kings
and
the Ben Crumps are out there circling. That was wrong.
See, there you go. Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, yeah, man. I gotta say, is God bless to the heirs, to the estate. You know, it's as a fan, I hate to see Prince, dissolve into this. It's into mess. Unfortunately, I love that new products of Prince are coming out. It's cool because I'm a fan of Prince, but I also, for myself, I understand that when I'm supporting something, I don't really know where that money is going. I used to know that it was going to Prince and he could use it for whatever he wanted to use it for. And because I support him, I was cool with that. Here, I'm not as cool with it because, again, I know for me, it's a big thing. If that's your family, they should be eating. To me, that means a big deal to me personally. So if I know if I'm spending money on these products or I see this, it kind of makes me feel some kind of way that, man, they're not really eating on this. It's some other people that we have no idea about, which I'm pretty sure, one, they wasn't in the studio to make none of this stuff, and two, they ain't even related to the cat who did it. For me, that's funny style. Doesn't have to be for everybody else. I'm just saying, for me, that would be like if this podcast, something happened to it, Viacom bought out this podcast after I passed, and they continued on with the Prince podcast and work it like a job. But my son Lucas and my daughter and them wasn't getting nothing out of it. But y'all was to promote it anyway. And if y'all was cool with that, that's cool. But at least you would know. For some of the listeners, I hope you would be like, I feel a kind of a way about that. Because I know that's his family. Whether or not he got along with it, it don't matter. That's his family. They're supposed to get it. Not some people that had shit to do with it. But because they got money and power, they own that shit. I would want my listeners to question that shit. And I wouldn't be mad if some of them listeners like, I'm not even fucking listening to that shit no more. I love them brothers and what they did. But they ain't even it's going to somebody else. That was never here from day one and didn't give a fuck about it back in the day. Now they're here because of the opportunity. I'm cool. But that's just me. So, but we're going to go get Welcome to America. We're going to get that. You know what I'm saying? But we also, they shouldn't be mad of us having this conversation, right? Because then that'd be fake. No. And I'll say this, for the ones who get mad or want to do something funny, you're just exposing yourself. Because we're not saying nothing. We're having a conversation. If you're uncomfortable because of the conversation, that means you're doing some fuck shit. Because a real person would be like, well, listen, Mike, you're right, but this is our thing now. We're taking control of this, and we're doing this, and we're gonna make money off of this, and it is what it is. It's business. We'll keep it pushing. Thing
is, though, using your analogy or example, if something happened to you, and people who aren't, your kids are running the podcast Juiced Empire, people will be looking at me like, "Hey, sexy, what's up, man?"
Well, you'd be like one of the heirs. Yeah, they'd be like, and Big Sexy, well, shit, I sold my rights over to Viacom, man. Fuck it. They wasn't trying to see, what else could I do? But at least, you can say that up front and keep it pushing. That's all I'm saying with the Prince thing. We should just be able to say what it is up front. And you can decide if you want to keep supporting it or not. But it's just like, well, shit. Yeah, Prince, his family don't get paid off of this. Just going to the bank. I'm cool with that. Let's get the next album. And you shouldn't be mad if somebody was to say something about it. Like, yeah, it is what it is. Prince don't own this shit no more. His family, man, they threw them to the side, man. Let's go get the new album, though. He got some new shit. They releasing some unheard shit we ain't heard before. That's dope. But let's not act like, I just say, I know a lot of fans, when they buy a lot, they think they're supporting Prince. Like, you should think about if you really are. Like, you're not really supporting. You're supporting this business, which is nothing wrong with that. But at least know what you're doing. That's all I'm saying. And that's not to say there's not great people that work over there. Some of them are my friends. But, same with conversation I would have with friends. You still would keep it a buck with your friends. Like, oh, okay. Oh, you working over there for that dude? No problem. Cool, man. Time you get off work. No, it's all good. So anyway, people out there, we love to hear what you think about this. Does it even matter? Does it matter to you as a fan? It might not. And I'm not mad at people that it doesn't matter to either. They're like, I don't care who owns it. I just want to hear more Prince music. I can dig that. Definitely can dig that. There was a lot of fans after Purple Rain. Didn't give a fuck about what's really going on with Prince. I just want to hear some more Purple Rain, man. I like that. That was a great album. Give me more of that. Where the revolution at? So I'm not mad at that either. Prince serviced those types of fans for many years, did he not?
Yes, he did.
Just the ones who liked the hits, didn't really fuck with the rest of the albums. And it was what it was. He understood who he was dealing with. That you're not here for the new album. You want to hear the shit in the 80s? Okay, I'm going to give you that. Sometimes he was like, I'm not doing that shit. So, oh well. But, you know what you was getting into. So there you go. Any last comments on this?
No. We're going to see how it comes out. But, again, the whole problem, but the whole thing is you got these new players in Hypnosis and Primary Wave with these deep pockets. As long as they are being equitable, I have no problem.
All right. Man, I hope it never comes true what I predicted in my book, where it'll be some other bigger player comes and swoops up and buys all this shit, buys Michael and all this, and is, hey, we're going to do, since we own all this, we can do what the hell we want. Let's make an album with a duet album with Prince and Bob Dylan or something. We own their estate. We're doing the hologram tour with Whitney and Prince.
Well,
ain't nothing y'all can do about it.
At the end of the day, a lot of us, all of us, we are emotionally vested, which I get. But 100 years from now, it's just an IP for someone to trade. That's all it's going to be.
True. Hopefully it doesn't have to be that.
No, but look at all the classical cats. Someone's going to make an Amadeus about Prince, down the line. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Especially the way things are going now. Now I'm on my soapbox because did you see the quote from, I think it was it T-Pain and Dre about the new music? Did you hear what he said? I think it was T-Pain.
I saw some headline about it. I didn't hear specifically.
Oh, God. He said, ain't nobody out there making anything new. We got all these guys named Baby making the same shit. I'm like, wow. And Dre co-signed that. And
you said T-Pain said that?
I think it was T-Pain. I could be wrong.
That's hilarious. For him to say that, I find that, I guess enough time has passed that even he could say some shit like that, and it still probably would take that serious. Stop it. Wasn't he just doing Roger? A new version of Roger?
See, it may not have been T-Pain, but it's someone with a T in his name.
It was T-Pain.
It was T-Pain?
Yeah.
I can't help it then.
Like, nigga, wasn't you doing Raj? Stop. And salute to T-Pain, super talented. I'm not taking nothing away, but it's like, come on now. You're not Stevie Wonder or some niggas.
No.
Let's relax on the
critiquing
all of it. Okay, that was cold-blooded.
I'm just saying, like,
he set himself up.
Yeah, let's put it in context now. I get the sentiment. All right, well, we're going to move on.